The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. What is the purpose of a business? Is it to make money? Is it to serve a need? Is it to fulfill a societal need? Or is it to satisfy a personal need? These are the questions many entrepreneurs and startup teams have to ask themselves, says Cruz Gamboa, because, as he points out, if they focus only on making money, they limit their potential. Purpose-driven leadership is what drove Patagonia to become one of the world's great companies to work for. Purpose drove SAP to become one of the greatest advocates for and employers of people on the autism spectrum. Purpose drove Elon Musk to go to space and build electric cars. Purpose, says Gamboa, is the innate drive to achieve goals that are personally meaningful. And this drive fuels powerful synaptic responses in your brain that release dopamine and reward you with a feeling of fulfillment and accomplishment. I invited Cruz Gamboa to join me for a conversation that matters about purpose-driven leadership. Cruz, welcome.
Thank you, Stu. It's an honor to be here in your show today, and I was really looking forward to this conversation.
When we think about leadership, and there have been thousands of books that have been written about it, there's always this sort of sense, well, if you do this, or if you tinker with that, or if you come up with this formula, you're going to have the right leadership system or program within your company, and you're going to have great results. Are you sort of saying, yeah, let's sort of move that stuff to the side of the desk here and focus in on what's going on in here and in our heads and find what drives us so that we can motivate others? Is that kind of your message?
It kind of is, in a way. So you got to think of leadership as something that has evolved over time. I think if you went back to the origins of the Industrial Revolution, you're going to see that when we think about leadership, we think about something more mechanistic, something more like command and control. You know, you were being told what to do. You were just be like a cog in a system. Over time, as you know, that has changed, and as people's standards of living and levels of education have increased, their needs. If you think about it from a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, their needs have actually moved up. So initially, it was just about getting money to just eat and to basically for sustenance for the family, right? But more recently, it's about finding meaning in what we do. So what I'm saying is that when people go to work, not only are they looking to just get paid, they're also to find meaning. This is actually, if you think about it, it has actually gotten even worse. Now that we have a new, we have the millennials, right? The millennials, and this is actually something that has been studied a lot. The millennials are really the generation that are just looking for meaning in everything they do. So my prediction is that it would only continue to become even more so in the future.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. As I listen to that, I go, okay, I want to have meaning in the work that I do as well. But I also go, the bottom line has to work. Like I can't divorce myself from the business and the business model that needs to be able to support what it is that we're doing that creates meaning. So how do you go about reconciling those two requirements?
Yes. Well, thank you for that question. I think sort of the maybe 20 or 30 years ago, the logic was that profits and shareholders were the most important thing. They came ahead of employees, the employees, and everything else. Over time, we've realized that we need people in order to have functional businesses. even to create new technologies and innovation, to have outstanding customer service. So your employees need to feel fulfilled, and they need to feel like with a sense of belonging to your organization. So I guess what I'm trying to say with purpose is that it does not need to be divorced from profits. And in fact, we have now plenty of evidence that companies that have actually focused on their mission and their purpose have created profits that far exceed those of the companies that actually do not follow that recipe. Just think about you mentioned a couple of companies that have actually done this really well. Patagonia is one that everybody recognizes. And everybody that works at Patagonia, they love the company. Everybody that knows the story about how Patagonia thinks and acts, love the company. And a lot of people buy their products because of that. And if you actually were to plot the profits compared to other companies in their same industry, you will probably see that they just do much better. And another example that you also mentioned that I would like to touch is Elon Musk. You've never heard, even though Elon Musk is probably one of the richest people in the world, you've never heard him say that he does this for the money. Elon is really convinced that what he's doing is really going to advance humanity. He's trying to convert us into a multi-planetary species, get us to Mars, create an electric vehicle industry, something that a lot of people thought was impossible. And these are the kind of challenges that drive him and that drive really smart people that work for him in his company and his investors to support his cause. And this is why, and also because he's a great entrepreneur and a great businessman, he has been able to make these two companies into what they are today. So what I'm trying to say is that, and it's not only me saying, it's actually there's any research that retention rates, profits, valuations, all the typical metrics that we would actually use to look at a company, they are just far superior to those companies that do not put purpose ahead of profits. So it's almost like I'm thinking about the build it and they come kind of thing, it's like that. When you lead with purpose, profits is your reward.
When you lead with purpose, though, that doesn't all of a sudden mean that life is going to be easy, or that you don't have to work hard, or that you're not going to have all what at times are seemingly insurmountable problems. But how does purpose then help you address those challenges that all businesses, especially startups or small businesses, face? What does purpose bring to be able to help to overcome those challenges?
Focus. The key word is focus. When you're clear about the purpose, everything else is noise. You start saying no to the things that do not align to your purpose. You start doing more of those things that actually do align with your purpose. You create followers, employees, suppliers that fully align with that purpose. And this is how you are able to deliver a product or a service that is far better to those companies who are not clear on purpose and they're just basically trying to do different things to see what's going to stick. And that's basically a very unfocused way of running a business. So I just think that it is kind of a subtlety in this, and that when we say that you need to lead with purpose, it doesn't mean that that is fluffy, that profits are not important, that efficiency is not important. It's none of that. It's actually quite the opposite. Is that you actually care so much about your purpose that everything aligns solely to the mission. And as I just mentioned, there's plenty of evidence that with companies that actually do that, they tend to do much better than those that do not.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. You know, you mentioned Elon Musk. We look at SpaceX now and go, yes, what a thriving success. But it wasn't guaranteed. As a matter of fact, I think they were on the cusp of failure, and yet Elon Musk kept going. What role did purpose play in him? What seemed to be an action against remarkable odds against. He kept going when so many other people would have quit. What role does purpose play in getting him to continue to be committed to his goal?
It gave him resilience. I'm actually in the process of listening to the audiobook on Elon Musk's biography by Walter Isaacson, which by the way, for those of you who love to read about entrepreneurship, this is a must, or anybody in leadership for that matter. And you can see how, to your point, that company was in the verge of bankruptcy. In fact, they had that third attempt for a launch that actually went mad, and they literally didn't have any more money to do another launch, and he ultimately had to borrow money, issue more shares, just do all sorts of gymnastics to be able to fund the last try, and ultimately they were successful. I mean, he literally put all of his money into this, and the only explanation possible for somebody to do something like that is that he really believed in the mission. So it's really about resilience. It gives you the conviction and sort of the inner drive to do things that others are probably would not dare to do. And you've seen that in other entrepreneurs out there. I mean, many entrepreneurs, many companies, many startups have been on the verge of going bankrupt, just running out of money. And because of the resilience and the conviction of the founders of those companies ultimately made it through. I mean, there's also lots of stories about those companies that didn't make it. It doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't leading with purpose. I mean, you have other elements as well, like, whether the idea was good enough, whether you had the right team in place, implementing whatever product or service the company was doing. There's obviously many variables, but I go back to purpose as being sort of that one element that gives entrepreneurs the resilience and the conviction to just push to levels that others are not necessarily comfortable doing so.
So when you say to somebody, well, what's your purpose? Or they might go, I don't know. As a matter of fact, finding purpose is one of the great existential questions that so many people ask themselves. What's the meaning of my life? If we have trouble finding that for ourselves just in the meaning of our lives, what's the process that you help people go through to try and identify what purpose their business has, and how you can draw the team together to coalesce around that same mission? Do you have a formula that you help people go through to start to identify that purpose and then confirm that it's a valid goal?
That is a fantastic question. So the answer is yes. And depending on whether you're doing this for a company or for an individual, the process is slightly different, but it's basically the same. Purpose has to be something that is, believe it or not, quite emotional, because it has to do with basically an inner belief, a core belief that is sometimes hard to articulate. And when you're working with founders and teams of management teams that are trying to identify what the core purpose is, the conversations are very deep, and they are all about what is it that they believe to be true? What is it that, you know, helps them get up in the morning to come to the next day, to continue to do the job, to continue to put all the fires that need to be put out, and to continue to just basically keep pushing, not only for them, but for their employees, for their families, and for the mission. So it's really something that is, very much an emotional thing. And the way that you do it is just really asking the question, like, what are the things that you are excited about? What are the things that you really care about? For some people, it's actually easy. Like, for example, for those companies like in the clean tech industry, they care about the environment, for example, right? And they care about, leaving the planet better than they found it. For others, it's really about helping people in their communities. For others, it is, creating a multi-planetary species. That's Elon Musk, right? That's his purpose. He wants to just take human beings to the next level outside of our planet. So for all of us, it's going to be different. And it's also, I gotta say that it's different. It's a different exercise when you're doing it at the beginning of a company than when you're actually trying to ask a question for a company that has been in operations but didn't really have a purpose other than just to do a business. And when you start asking those existential questions, the management team struggles a lot, because they are like, well, we're doing this because we want to make money, but then they know deep inside that there's something else out there. And I actually, believe it or not, I had this conversation with one of my clients, and I literally had him basically tell me about the story of his life. We talked about, his upbringing, his professional careers, his ups and downs in his career. And then we started talking about, I have him tell me a little bit about some of the great stories and the feedback that he's heard, that he had received from his clients in the past. And then he actually said something that it was just kind of like, aha. We had an aha moment when, he mentioned that one of his clients said that basically, whatever the service, I can't really talk about his business, but whatever the service that he did for them saved her life. So we started building from there, and we came to the conclusion that a lot of the work that his company is doing is about making the community better. And then he lit up. He got really excited. I hope he actually sees this video. He's going to enjoy listening about be making a story out of him. But that's basically it. It's about what gets us excited. I mean, if we don't get excited about what we do, then why do it? Only for the money? I don't know. It's mainly something for each one of us to ponder in our personal time. Huh?
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So as you're speaking, I can't help but sort of think about my own journey as an entrepreneur. I started, and I would say that my purpose was to try and prove something to myself. Could I do this? Because I spent a good portion of my life wondering or worrying that I wasn't good enough. And I actually quit my job, talking about being uncomfortable. I had a good job, but I quit because I wanted to go out and test the limits of my ability. And oh my gosh, was it ever hard. Like, I made every single mistake that you can imagine. But I never gave up, because at that time my purpose was just to prove to myself that I could do this. And it seems like an odd purpose to have a business about, but that is what drove me even in the darkest possible days. But then as things progressed, and I'm now 25, 26 years into this, my purpose is completely different. And so I guess I bring that up in how often do we have to keep re-examining what the purpose of the business is?
That is actually a great question, and I'm going to tell you why it's a great question, because I read this book by this author, which I really, really respect, Jim Collins, Built to Last. And he basically says that when you have a purpose, that purpose shouldn't change. And I'm talking in the context of a business, right? The purpose should change. What should change is your strategy. I personally have a slightly different take on this. I think it's perfectly okay for your purpose to evolve, to pivot from where you originally started. I think that's perfectly normal, and I don't think there's a I don't think I can prescribe like whether you should do it like every 2 years or every year or every 6 months. I don't. I think that's got to be more gap, and especially in the context of I want to take it first from a business perspective. From a business perspective, a lot of companies actually evolve on their purpose because the nature of their business change. And while their purpose still retains elements or their original company, it is imperative to actually upgrade that purpose, sometimes to even something more elevated. So something even better, so to speak, something, a broader with much more impact than originally considered. And then it's also true that, especially now with the introduction of technologies like artificial intelligence, I think it's powering because we have the ability to basically build businesses that are way more scalable, that are more exponentially the reach, and therefore it gives us a little bit more courage to actually elevate, sort of the impact that we can deliver through that purpose. So I think from a business perspective, just to round it out, there's no prescription. It's really about, what feels right for the business, for, the evolution of the industry that you're in, the dynamics, the specific dynamics of the industry that you're in, for the dynamics on your clients and your employees. It's definitely very organic. And I would say that is, in a way, it's not different than from an individual perspective. I know so many people, because I've done life coaching as well, and I've heard stories of people that initially started with an idea of what their purpose was, and then they had an aha moment 3 years into whatever it is, their path that they were following, and they realized that their purpose was actually something else. Yeah. And I think that's completely fair. It's completely normal, and it's actually part of the human experience. So I wouldn't say that it is not correct to evolve on that purpose. I just kind of gave you the two sides, the Jim Collins perspective and the Cruz Gamboa perspective.
Well, there's many dimensions to this topic, and I encourage people to check out your postings, your work, your scheduled lessons, because you have much to offer, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, for the invitation. I really enjoyed our conversation.